Welcome to Fandom
and Wellness,
a podcast about the complex relationship between fandom and mental health.
Disclaimer, we are not psychiatrists or psychologists. We are just fangirls with a vested interest in mental health. I'm Arkita.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Danielle.
Today we have Whitney Newman on to talk about drag.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hey.
So we'd like to ask all our guests what pronouns they use. The three of us use she, her, hers. And your bio says that you recognize yourself as a shape-shifting space lizard.
Yes.
So what are your pronouns?
I use they, them, or she, her interchangeably. It's like she, her, and kind of like the gay usage, like the drag usage.
Right, exactly.
Or they, them is safe either way. You know?
Okay, perfect.
Or you can call me he, but I probably won't realize you're talking about me immediately. So.
Okay, all right. Good to know.
As the only one who might recognize as he on the podcast, then maybe you'll know. So, thanks for coming on, Whitney. As you know, I asked you to come on. We've known each other for a long time through a band that we both oddly follow around, the World Inferno Friendship Society. Whitney has made me several onesies, which are super cute. They're on her Instagram. And we'll talk about it a little bit later, but I know that you and I both suffer from really bad burnout a lot of the time.
Yes.
Because we're both like hardcore designers who will work throughout multiple days straight. So also, I had asked Whitney to be on this podcast, and they did not think or realize that the nerdy community cares about the drag community. And so you were like pretty surprised that I asked you to be on this. So what made you say yes to doing this and like interested you in the podcast?
Well, Arkita and I were discussing a minute ago how she doesn't know anything about my world and I don't really know anything about this world. So it'll be fun to reach a new audience in both directions and teach each other what we're about and what we're excited about.
Yeah, and the two communities have more in common than you would think, probably.
There's a lot of overlap. I think a lot of drag queens are really nerdy.
That's true.
And I can kind of see like the bridge between drag and cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, like what was the most recent effort you just made?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually, this is like very on topic. The last things I made were Monet's backup dancers for her Black Panther act.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
I was at that show and it was amazing. It was it looked beautiful.
Thank you.
And that was a really good number too. It was so awesome.
That was also pretty fun for me to be like, oh, Jenny, you're going to the show. This is the designers who we're interviewing in a couple days.
I know, I was like, what?
Yeah, so in theory I was there because I did get to go to the venue early to drop stuff off. So
I guess.
I want to go out with you guys. Take me with you.
Shameless plug. Come see me at Otto's Shrunken Head, January 31st.
Oh my gosh! I love that.
Yeah,
place.
The act that you're doing is really, really good. It's
one of my favorites.
Yeah. We're gonna talk. So
yes,
we're gonna talk about your designs first, and then you as a performer in a little bit. So we would love to hear more about that in a little bit. But
yeah. So I'm very new to this entire world,
mm-hmm.
and I don't know that much about it. I'm not going to pretend that to say, oh yeah, I totally know what this is all about, because I don't. I have always kind of stayed in my little nerdy bubble, and this is really cool that we get to have you on, but I really want to know, like, how did you get into the drag scene and then, like, start making clothing for drag shows?
So I went to FIT to study fashion design, and when I first started school, I was like, I'm going to be the next John Galliano, I'm going to be the next Alexander McQueen, I'm going to be the next Betsy Johnson. And then like around 2010, 2011, I was like halfway through school, and that whole section of the fashion world just collapsed.
Oh, yes.
Like,
I know that collapse
all of-
that you're talking about.
All those people, like, had mental breakdowns or died or went bankrupt. So, like, and then fashion got very safe. That everything was just neutral colors, basic silhouettes. Like,
it was
my
minimalist
professors
is what
were
it was.
constantly telling me, you have to tone down your work. Nobody's going to want to buy this. This isn't going to be sellable to any of the stores. Like, I got into a fight with one of my professors once when I was doing a bridal class, and I wanted to do a pink wedding dress because I don't like white.
I want a pink wedding
Yeah,
dress.
and that's a big trend. And I brought her in several clippings from, like, various celebrities in the past year having pink wedding dresses, and she still wouldn't let me do it. So it was at that point that, like, I was very close to just, like, dropping out of school, like, a semester and a half before graduation because the professors just weren't understanding what I was doing at all. But then for our last semester in school, we do this internship program. And so I just, like, went to the database and searched costumes, and this place, Screaming Queens Entertainment, came up. So I applied to do my internship with them. I got in. The school was very against it. They wanted me to work at, like, an actual fashion house.
Like an atelier or something like that.
Yeah, but so then I had, like, 12 friends working at Oscar de la Renta getting coffee. Meanwhile, I was working in this weird basement in the East Village, like, actually making showgirl headdresses and repairing sequins on dresses and, like, networking and meeting all these people. And I'm the only one I know who actually got a job out of my internship.
Yeah, that's a difficult thing. 'Cause I do also work in fashion and know the whole internship thing. I did my senior year internship at an intimates company, but I did another internship at, like, a couture place, and it really was just, like, running errands and organizing, and I didn't get to have that much hands-on, which I feel, you miss out on a lot of.
Yeah, so I did mine at Malia Mills, which is, like, a niche swimwear and sportswear company. And I mean, I definitely did, like, the interns did, like, a lot of, like, the cutting and things like that. Not really any coffee getting, at least.
Yeah.
But it's just so much cooler to be able to work in like the exact industry that you are now in. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that was my first introduction to that, and it was basically I was the only employee. Like, it's very so the business is run by former drag queen. Her name is Misunderstood. So she, like, doesn't really do drag anymore. She just manages everyone else. But, like, that's still... So she runs this whole thing. She has this whole basement full of, like, hundreds and hundreds of costumes. And then they book performers and send them out to, like, private events or publicity things. So it was my job to get the costumes in order, make sure they're all in good shape, do any repairs and alterations where needed, go with these performers to the gig, help them get dressed, make sure they were on set and off set when they needed to be, take pictures, document the event. So it's through there, because a lot of these events, like, they're only on set for an hour or two, but you have to get there several hours early, check in, set everything up, steam all the costumes, so you end up spending hours and hours with these people. And so that's how I got to network with everyone in the business, and then found out that there was this hole in the market that, like, there weren't that many people making costumes for these performers in New York City. So then once I got a couple of people who noticed what I was doing and started getting work from me, then it just kind of snowballed into where I am now.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool, actually, like, to go from studying and almost wanting to, like, drop out of college. I know that feeling. I've had that feeling where it's like the teachers don't want to, like, let you have that creative freedom, and you're like, this isn't my vision. Going through your internship and then being to where you are now.
And through that internship, I met, before they ever got on Drag Race, like, Ivy Winters, Yuha Hamasaki, Peppermint. I worked with Milan, like, as her season was airing. Who else? Like, all of the New York Drag Race queens have gone through there first.
Not an overstatement. Or not an overstatement. Like, you literally, you know everyone in the drag community.
We all know each other. Like,
yes,
I like to tell people all drag queens are 2 degrees of separation apart. Like, if you name any drag performer in the world, either we're Facebook friends or we're gonna have mutual Facebook friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race. Are you a huge fan as well, or?
At this point, it's kind of just, like, work. Like, I have to watch it because, you know, it's my clients and my friends are on it. All of my clients and my friends want to talk about it. I can't go on any of my social media until I watch it. So it's basically the only thing that I make sure to watch live every week.
I've been on tours with Whitney, and you have just straight up had to watch it on your phone because you're like, I won't be able to go on social media until I have watched this episode.
Yep.
Well, do you at least enjoy it?
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
It's like our version of like when Avengers comes out.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, because I just avoid social media when a new Marvel film comes out, and I'm like, guess I'm not gonna be on the internet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I've seen a couple of the outfits that you've made for the drag queens on the show, but what can you name some of the outfits that you've made for the show?
So the first couple of things that I helped with were the butterfly wings that Ivy Winters wore on her Stilts runway.
Oh,
which
yes.
That was actually one of my internship tasks that I got hours for in school. So she was one of the big drag costumers in the city before she got on the show. So she was making those for Screaming Queens, and then it was like part of my internship hours to go help her. There were 6 of them originally, and it was her, Sahara, Yuha, Logan Hardcore, 2 other ones, I forget. But like, so there were 6 of them in different colors, and they were all hand-painted, and they're huge. So I helped her with that, and then her dress that was all made out of the different photos. There were several photos that I took at events that I worked through my internship on there, if that counts. And then the first design of mine that got on was Peppermint's top 4, the big red ball gown.
Yes, I saw that. God, that was so gorgeous.
And that I made in like 2.5 days of running.
That's crazy.
From the garment district to Brooklyn to Harlem to Brooklyn, going to fittings and fabric and everything else. And she was like, I have $150 in my PayPal account. What can you make me? So
wow.
Yeah.
So is it usually you spark the idea of what the dress or the outfit is gonna be, or do they come to you with an idea, or is it a mix of both?
It depends on the person. Usually they give me some sort of idea. Like for her, she was like, I want it to be red and gold. I want it to look kind of Elizabethan, but a little bit more modern. Mm-hmm. But then sometimes people just come with an idea like, I want to do a rainbow clown look. Go.
Okay.
Like, you mean you?
No, a lot of people come to me for that because they know that I'm good at it.
Okay.
Nice.
That was season 9, and nothing on season 10. I started working with Monet after the season was filmed, but before it premiered. Okay. So I made some of her stuff for some of like the premiere events, like red carpet things, but there was nothing on the show. And then so far on the current All-Stars season, I did her entrance look, which
yes, I saw that.
hasn't gotten very good reviews, but it's okay.
Oh God, it's so cute, but it's like not like extravagant like people expect it to be, I guess.
Well, it's funny. I had made her 2 other things that she had said she was going to use for her entrance, and she didn't use either of those, and she used this other thing that was originally for a tour she was doing. So I don't know.
Interesting choice. Then
I don't know what made her choose that, but whatever. I still think it's cute. It's not what I would have chosen, but I'm not unhappy with it. And then I made the same episode, the little blue cover-up that went over her sponge bodysuit, which that was fun because she didn't give me the bodysuit. She was just kind of described what it looked like and was like, make a cover-up over it, hopefully it fits.
Oh my God.
And then I did, when she did her top 2 lip sync, it was like a little mermaid bodysuit thing with a skirt that tears away. That was one of her old tour costumes that she just brought as one of her lip sync outfits. And then I did her funeral dress, which that was funny because she gave me the prompt for that and she said it's a campy comedy funeral themed acting challenge. So then when I saw what the challenge actually ended up being, which it was, for those who haven't watched the show, it was a roast of Lady Bunny, who is one of the major fixtures of like the 90s, early 2000s drag scene in New York City, was roommates with RuPaul back when they were first starting out. So she's, you know, legendary in the scene. There's a lot of jokes about her being old and not relevant anymore. Yeah. So like they literally had her on stage in a coffin.
Yeah, while roast at her funeral.
Super cute.
At her funeral, yeah.
Oh. Wow. Okay.
So I made her a couple other things. We'll see whether they make it.
I'm excited to see.
Yeah. And then I have a couple of things on season 11, which I can finally talk about.
Yay!
Which they just announced the cast earlier today.
Yeah, please talk about the Janelle Monáe outfit.
Yeah, so I've been working a lot with Honey Davenport, who is now in season 11, and the story of how I got to work with her is actually a really funny, like, I made this post a couple of weeks ago that I was like, I can't wait to tell this story, but I can't tell it in this post, talking about not taking people for granted, that there's a lot of these designers in the scene who only want to work with people who they think are going to benefit them, that are already a big name, that are going to be on TV. Yes. But I'm like, you never know who you're snubbing, who's going to be famous later. And the way that I met Honey was her manager, who manages some other of my clients, messaged me being like, hey, Honey's doing this pageant in like 3 days. Her costume designer had, I think it was like a stroke or an aneurysm or something, was in the hospital in a coma with all of the half-finished costumes still locked inside his apartment, and nobody had access to them, and they weren't finished, and there was no way to finish them. So she was like, I have no time, I have no money, I really need something for this pageant. Can you help me? I know it's a stretch, but I'm really desperate, please. So I was the one who said yes. Somehow I turned out a dress in a day and a half, sent her on her way.
You know, those
this is
that
not
can happen.
Somehow.
Yeah.
This is like a typical behavior for you.
This one was especially
okay.
It's like, we bought the fabric, I got home, I sewed for 10 or 12 hours straight and dropped it off the next night.
Oh my god.
And then I think it was like a month or two later she got the call, and then at that point I was her go-to designer, where she was like, I want you to have first pick of any of these themes that you want to work with, because I trust you and I appreciate what you've done for me, and I really want to pay you back for helping me.
That's amazing.
So do you think that's how it's going to be during the season as well?
She's told me that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, this was like, I want to get one of my pieces on these red carpet events, because those you get better photos from than the ones that are actually on the show. So we'll see.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, but the Janelle Monáe one was, we had talked about it before she left for filming, and then that was the first thing I made for her when she got back. And she wrote this whole thing on Instagram about honoring women, honoring trans people, because, you know, honoring bodies that are usually rejected within the gay male community, because that's definitely a thing. And she's great. She's a true activist for women, for trans people, for people of color. I don't know if you saw, there was this whole thing where the bar that she was working at, the manager was texting the event manager that he didn't like that there were so many Black people on the flyer, because he said it. Yeah, so he says, I need you to change the flyer. It looks like we're promoting Black Night, and that's bad for business.
Oh my god.
So she found out about this and got on stage at her show, riled up the crowd. Hi, how's it going? Is everyone ready to see me perform? Are you excited for this party? Well, guess what? You're not going to see me perform because I can't perform here anymore. Explained what had happened, dropped the mic, walked off the stage, and most of the room followed her.
That's fucking amazing.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing.
That
good
is
for
a
them
queen.
and good for her.
That is
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, so do you want to talk about just in general kind of racism in the fan base of the drag community?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about this fan base that brings out these reactions to people, but, you know, I saw a week or two ago, like, on one of Monet's photos where, like, she was wearing something I made, so I was, like, going through the comments, and then someone was like, oh, like, you big ugly ape, you're never gonna win. Like,
Oh my god!
What?
Jesus!
Like, and I don't know what makes people think it's okay to say those things. Like, the fandom is awful.
There's something very toxic about the
Yeah.
fandom, and I'm not sure. Well, you see that toxicity in like nerd fandom,
Yes,
Sometimes
you
Yeah,
see it too.
gatekeeping and everything.
but I think the audience is very young. I think also, so they don't quite know. They haven't learned a lot of things. Sometimes they're just like privileged white women who just love watching drag queens, but only white ones, or it's
Yeah,
like
I was seeing a post that I believe Bob the Drag Queen made
Mhm.
about how only do they go by them or she, or do you know?
She.
So only she and RuPaul have over 1 million followers, whereas there are like tons of like skinny white drag queens who have over 1 million followers.
Yeah, I was surprised. Last time I checked Monet's page, she had less than 500,000, which I was shocked.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't agree with it. It's definitely a problem. Luckily, a lot of people have spoken out about it. Asia O'Hara, who was on season 10, did this whole statement. So she made top 4, and she felt like she was very victimized by this whole racist fan base thing, and apparently people were sending her death threats and like threatening to
That's
light her
insane.
on fire.
What?
So,
What?
yeah, and this was like right before Pride, so so they have to do all these appearances as part of Drag Race. So for all of her Pride performances, she was doing these looks that they were like, the face was covered, so it went from like solid black to black lace to red lace to solid red. And it was like this whole, and she didn't speak in any of the interviews. She just sat there, and it was this whole statement of, you're acting like we're invisible, you're acting like we don't matter, let's see what happens when I remove my presence from this narrative.
So that's why she was wearing a black lace piece. Oh my
That's an amazing statement. Yeah, because like I know that it bothers me that RuPaul does not come out and say anything about this because they're such an influential person. Like they're the most famous drag star in the world.
Yeah.
It's very odd that they would not come out in defense of other black drag queens to be like, this is not okay to treat them like token people on the show, and to be like openly, like overtly racist towards them on their Instagrams, and like that's a lot.
And RuPaul has even, I believe, defended performers who perform in blackface.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I also want to talk about Jeffree Star a little bit, just because like like Jenny was mentioning that like, oh, like maybe some of these fans are just too young to understand. Like Jeffree Star is very involved in the drag community. If you go to DragCon, his booth takes up almost an entire aisle.
Yep.
Like it is unavoidable, and they're racist. They're just straight up like he put out a video when he was I believe he goes by 19 years old, with a character in blackface saying he needs to acid wash her face. Yeah. And like yelling the N-word and saying ape and all this problematic stuff. I don't know any 19-year-old who thinks that's okay, other than these like fucking college kids in the news right now. But like, I found it painful when I vended at DragCon that Jeffree Star was so promoted there.
Yeah.
And like you said,
especially in go ahead, Jenny.
Like they have very young fans who are going to be influenced by how
and like
what they see.
And what I was trying to say was, I'm sorry, like he issued an apology, but it was an apology that was basically like, oh, I was young, I didn't know any better. You know better when you're 19 not to have a video of someone in blackface.
But even to say I don't know any better is the wrong
that's
way
not
of
an apology.
It's to say it's not an apology, it's just you excusing your own behavior. You should come out and say, I've learned from this, or this is what I've done to change, or this is what I've done to better myself.
Well, I think they did, but they still said, "Oh, I was young."
It's
I don't
kind
care.
of like
there are enough people in the world designing makeup that this person does not need to be famous.
I don't think they've learned either. So like
I don't think so either.
Like, you know what really bothers me a lot? I'm out. I'm bisexual. One of the things that does bother me a lot within like the queer community, the LGBT community, just in general, is how racist it is. And that's why I tend to only surround myself with other queer people of color as opposed to more white people. Because when you think back to how gay rights started, it was by a Black drag queen. And I'm just like, what are you all doing? Like, you wouldn't have the rights you have today, and you would definitely not be able to live this life had it not been for Marsha Johnson. So, like, take a step back and really look at your history before you partake in such toxic behavior, because at the end of the day, it's just going to make things worse for everybody.
Yeah, and like that's something like I really loved about to bring it back to your designs, like Honey Davenport's post that she just made on her page, like in the pussy pants, because originally she was talking about celebrating women and the female body, and there was a lot of commentary on there saying like, well, like, what about trans women and whatnot, and then she made a follow-up because her Instagram is like a 3 series, so like there's obviously going to be more posts anyway, like it's coming, you know, so it was just like a very inclusive thing for her to be saying like basically saying like the drag community needs to do better by the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, and then even the original Janelle Monáe video, I think like 2 of the dancers didn't have the pants on to represent trans people. So it comes full circle.
Yeah.
Well, I know that you're also a performer.
Yes.
Well, how do you get into it, first of all? And how have you been received, I guess, by the community?
So I kind of fell backwards into it because I was making costumes for other performers, and then I decided I wanted to be my own spokesmodel, like back when I had a couple of clients, but like not really enough to fill out my schedule. So I was like, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna wear my work, people are gonna ask me questions, I'll get more clients. So I entered at the time, like online drag competitions for amateurs were a big thing. It was like based on RuPaul's Drag Race, so it's like there's a mini challenge, which is usually just do your makeup from the shoulders up, and then there's a main challenge, which sometimes it's a look, sometimes you have to film a video. So I started out doing that to just like teach myself the skills, and then through there I met people in the community who were also just starting out, and then we started hanging out, we would go to parties, just like get ourselves noticed. So then it was like, okay, like, you know, I'm doing these looks in my bedroom, I might as well go out. If I'm going out to the club, I might as well perform.
Okay, nice.
Because people would constantly asking, like, where do you perform? Like, I don't perform. And it took me 3 years of going out before I ever set foot on the stage, because I felt like I wouldn't be well received. But mostly it's been fine. Most of the pushback I've received for being an AFAB drag performer has been online. I've only ever had one incident in person of someone like yelling into my face that what I was doing wasn't valid.
Wow.
And they were very drunk, and I think they were just mad that like they felt entitled to the prize money. It was
someone else performing.
Yes.
I thought
So
you meant a crowd member.
It was a competition. There were somewhere between 14 and 18 contestants. There was myself and my drag sister, who's also an AFAB, assigned female at birth performer, and the rest of the contestants were male. I made top 4 with 3 other male contestants, and then I made top 2. And then for the top 2, it was like a lip sync for your life, face-off kind of thing, which isn't my strength. Like, I do very carefully planned performances, so, like, improvising based on a song I only sort of know, like, isn't my thing. So I came in second. So the other one won. She got $100. I got $50. Fine. And then one of the other contestants, who didn't even make top 4, came to me in the dressing room and was yelling at me that I didn't belong there, that I was taking away time and spots and money from these other girls who deserved it more than I did because, you know, I'll never understand what it is to be a gay man and all this other stuff, and, like, you know, this isn't drag, like, why don't you just be a drag king instead, and, like, just hurling, and for, like, over an hour, just, like, chasing us around the entire bar. But other than that
other than that terrifying situation.
Yeah, like, I know that it's a big thing, and that, like, again, like, sorry to pick on RuPaul, but like they have made comments about how only men should be allowed to do drag because it's punk rock if a man does it, but not if a woman does it. But it's just like a celebration and exaggeration of self.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, in the words of fucking RuPaul,
we're all born naked and the rest is drag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I was just like, and I know that because I've been Facebook friends with you for forever. I know that you're very vocal on your page about being an AFAB performer and that everyone should be allowed. And you also don't like being categorized as a bio queen. So can you talk about that a little bit more, like what a bio queen is? And
yeah, I'm not familiar with what that is.
So, a bio queen, which we're trying to move away from using that term, is somebody who's, quote, biologically female, who performs as a drag queen. But the reason why we're trying to move away from using that term is because biological gender isn't really a thing, and, like, to say that someone's biologically female, like, if there's a trans guy who's doing drag, and then you're calling him a bio queen, you're basically calling him a woman, and then you're saying that trans women who are doing drag aren't really women. So, you know, just call everyone drag queen. If you need to specify for, like, intersectionality purposes, you can say, you know, AFAB performers, you can say female in AFAB, you can say non-male, like, whatever makes most sense in that context of how you're grouping people. But I don't think it should be a separate category of performer, just label-based. I think if you're doing drag, you're a drag queen, you're a drag king. There doesn't need to be any differentiation based on your genitalia.
Yeah, because, like, you have told me many times that you have that you talk to people and they don't recognize you at all out of drag, and then they're like, "What? That you're who I was talking to?"
You look completely different.
When I first started out, I was really scared to, like, tell my clients that I was doing drag because it wasn't as well accepted back then for AFAB people to be drag queens. So, like, I had 2 Facebooks, I, like, went by 2 different names, I didn't tell them, nobody knew. I tried very hard to make people assume that I was male when I would go out and drag, just because, like, I didn't want to be clocked as, like, oh, you're a real girl, aren't you? And then be like, no. Like, well, yes, you are. It's like, I don't want to have to, like, give you a whole lecture on gender theory at the club when you can't even hear what I'm saying anyway. But, like, luckily now I've found a whole community of, like, mostly trans and AFAB performers who, you know, are very accepting and very enthusiastic of just whoever you are, do your thing, cool.
Yeah, and I know that you're, pretty close with Sasha Velour. And
Who's the winner of the winner of season 9.
And you've been vocal about how positive they are towards like the trans community, and that's one of the reasons why you've told me you look up to her so much.
Mm-hmm.
So can you like tell us your little like meet cute story of how you met?
Yeah,
I want Jenny to hear.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm pumped. I'm ready.
So I found out about Sasha around the same time that most of the world did, when the video of her performing her cellophane act at Austin Drag Fest went viral across drag Facebook. And I assume that's the reason that she got cast on the show, because this was like right before the cast was decided. And so after I saw that, I went through YouTube, I watched all her performances and just like sat there for 2 hours like crying about how genius all of these performances were and how much they were what I wanted to be doing. And so I added her on Facebook. She added me back. We didn't really interact at all. And then it took several months. Like, Nightgowns was one of those things that I would tell myself I was going to go, but then just it never worked out. But then finally the stars aligned. I finally got to go to Nightgowns.
And real quick, Nightgowns is the show that...
Nightgowns is Sasha Velour's monthly show, where it's a showcase of intentionally, like, diverse and unusual, I guess, drag performances. Like, it's a very heightened form of drag, where it's theater, it's performance art, everything has, like, a statement and a message. It's not just, like, twirling around to a pop song in a bar. Very intellectual, that's the word. So I went to that, and this was a couple episodes in, and if you recall, like, Sasha was barely in the first couple episodes of the season.
Yeah, because she wasn't dramatic enough.
So, like, her fan base hadn't really picked up yet, so she was just, like, walking around the room before and after the show. And I was at the show by myself, because I didn't know anyone else who wasn't as enthusiastic about her as I was at that point, because she, like, wasn't doing that well in the show. Nobody cared. So I went by myself, and I got adopted by this group of people who were standing next to me, and saw that I was there by myself, and they were like, "You seem cool. You're with us now."
Aww.
And one of them was someone who, like, told me their whole life story about, like, getting rejected by their family and being homeless and moving to New York, and, like, Sasha was one of the first people who, like, took them in and helped them out. So they're like, "Oh, Sasha's gonna love you. Like, I'm gonna go introduce you." So after the show we go, I say hi, and, like, I don't usually get flustered around the Drag Race girls because, like, that's my job. Like, I work with all of them. Like, but because she's been so influential to what I do, plus Nightgowns is a very emotional show. Like, I was crying the entire show. Every time I brought someone to their first Nightgowns, they've cried the entire show.
Wow.
It's a very overwhelming experience. So
I want to go. It's in Brooklyn?
It is, yeah.
Okay. You guys should go together.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to go now.
I do too.
And there's videos of some of the past ones online, if you want to check those out. So I go over to her, and I'm just, like, babbling of, like, "You're so inspirational to me, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. By the way, I do drag also." And then she stops me, she goes, "Wait a minute, what's your name in drag?" It's like, Pirata. She goes, "Oh my god, I've watched your videos, I love your performances, you're amazing, oh my god, like, I'm so happy to meet you." It's like,
so amazing. So she knows she knew you were then by this point.
Things were kind of just there for a while, and then I went to, so it was right after she won, it was the Friday, I think, of Pride weekend, and then she had a Pride/birthday/coronation party show thing to replace Nightgowns that month. So I went to that, and then everyone who I knew was in the VIP section, because that was where all the other performers were. So they just, like, snuck me into the VIP section.
Nice.
And then, Sasha comes into her little section after the show. Doesn't seem to have a problem that I'm there. she's happy to see me. I asked if I could have a photo with her, and she was like, I told everyone no photos, but for you, sure. So we're taking our photo, and then I'm telling her about how much going to nightgowns for the first time a couple months back affected me. I'm telling her about one of my acts that I had created based on that experience and what I had learned there and what I wanted to take from it, and how to put the essence of that show into my own drag, because at the time of that show, I was kind of in this weird in-between state of like kind of being too weird for the scene that I was in, and like not sure whether I should like go more mainstream with what I was doing to fit in, or if I was just like too weird and I shouldn't even try. So seeing that show, seeing that there was a space for people who were doing what I wanted to be doing, kind of empowered me to go full weird.
Yeah, your
with what
acts
I
are
was doing.
so good, so I'm really happy you stuck with that.
Yeah. When I look back at what I was doing when I first started out, like I would never do some of that now. I was like trying really hard to just like fit in. So there's the Manhattan scene, which is more like top 40, dancing, sparkly costumes, and then the Brooklyn scene is a lot more towards conceptual. It doesn't matter as much if people recognize the song.
That sounds like a good description of the
Yeah.
boroughs.
Yeah.
So the act in question is like me wrapping myself in electrical tape for 4 minutes. And there's more to it than that, but it is
Right.
It's one of my more strange and avant-garde acts.
Yeah, but it's very good.
It's really good. It's actually about like being consumed by your inner demons and like the weight that's been put on you, and just like being overwhelmed and pulled down into this darkness. So I'm explaining this act to her, and she says to me, I would love to have you at Nightgowns. I also really want you to make costumes for me. I've seen your work. And then, so here's going back to what we were talking before.
You're screaming in your head.
She knew me for my drag, and then Peppermint knew me as a designer. They knew me on 2 different names, as 2 different people, didn't realize that they both knew the same person.
Oh my god.
Until like months later.
Like a Parent Trap situation
Yes.
going on.
Well, you know what they say, it starts with sleep deprivation and it ends in a double life.
Oh my god. Okay, god damn it.
So this was summer 2017, I think. So it took until October. I get a message from Johnny Valor, who is Sasha's partner and business partner, who like helps her run her empire, and says, hi, like Sasha would love to work with you on this thing that we're doing. Would you be interested? It's like, yes. So like they didn't say anything about what it was, and it turned out to be this film project, which at the time I was like, she doesn't know who I am. Like I'm not anybody in this scene. Like I'm probably gonna be just like in the background of a crowd. And then I get there, and the only characters with names are Sasha, Peppermint, and me.
Wow.
And everyone else is like ensemble. And then at the end of that, they were like, oh, by the way, want to do nightgowns next week? And then
I feel like I'm gonna start crying for you. Even though I know all this already, I still don't. It's so awesome to hear you say.
So my first reaction of what act I'm going to do is the one that I was describing with the electrical tape. But then I switched what I was doing to this other act. So I'll tell you about that.
It's my favorite act that you do.
It's my favorite too. So it was originally conceptualized after Trump got elected. And just all the feelings of, this is the person who's running our country. Like, we have a sexual predator running our country for us, and like, this is our life now. And just like all the anxiety with that. So it's to You and Your Hand by Pink, and there's just all these different layers. It starts out in a black coat, and I have like a little like pepper spray that's actually glitter hairspray. So it's like I'm walking around at night, get to the club, take the coat off, and then I have this red dress that's covered in white handprints. And then the white handprints all come off one by one, and then I get into an altercation with this other person as the audio clip of Trump saying, you know, grab her by the pussy is happening. So the dress gets ripped off, and then I'm in a black bodysuit with red hands. So this one is just 3, like 2 on the chest and 1 on the crotch. And then that's like, you know, the deep dark moment of like feeling violated and beat down by what's happening. And then those come off one by one. And then at the last bridge of the song, the black bodysuit comes off to a nude bodysuit, and then this has red X's where the hands were on the previous one, and then it says, "Don't grab me." So it was originally about that, and then, you know, this is now a year or 2 later, so now all the Harvey Weinstein stuff and the Me Too movement is happening. So then I kept the mix the same, but then one of the big things that Sasha and nightgowns in general are known for, these video projections that make the show more immersive and heightened than just like one performer on a stage. So I made this whole animation with the hands that correspond to my outfit, but then at the bridge of the song it turns into a slideshow about like the whole Me Too movement. It starts out with talking about Trump, and then it goes into talk about Harvey Weinstein, and then it talks about like, you know, this is only a symptom for what's going on in our society in general, and what does this mean for the future? It just keeps building and building, and then at the end of the act, then it just flashes like full floor-to-ceiling screen, like, "Don't grab me."
Yeah, I was super emotional watching just like a video, like the video clip of that. I was like screaming. Mm-hmm. So it's so good.
Thank you.
I was gonna ask what drag meant to you, but I think you just described what drag is to you.
Yep. So thank you for doing that.
Yes, of course. And that was my favorite thing about doing that show, was like, aside from the obvious, you know, being in the most prestigious drag showcase in the country, maybe.
Well, the audience was screaming.
Yeah, but my favorite part about it is, first of all, that you have this opportunity to take whatever you're doing and bring it to its most heightened form. And they will give you whatever space and resources you need to do that. And then the second thing is that it's not a bar, it's not a club. People are there specifically to appreciate it.
Yeah, it's expensive to get into, isn't it? Like, it's not a normal drag show. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's seated. There's no house music. There's no, you know, lights. There's no, you know, crazy bar, dancing, anything. Like, people are there to watch what you're doing. They're not distracted by anything else that's going on in the room. And they're there to appreciate and welcome whatever it is that you're bringing to them. Which, you know, at a normal drag show, sometimes you have to fight really hard to, like, even get the audience to pay attention before they'll even give you $1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've gone to a couple of your performances, just bars with you.
Yes.
And you're known for 2 different things. The first one, which I want to talk about first, is your transformation outfits, which you were just describing with that. Do you have any others that are particular favorites of yours? I know Jenny loves the Magikarp one.
I don't have a Magikarp one.
You did a Pokemon. You did a Pokemon one, like
it was
long time ago.
Metapod Butterfree.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so that was actually the first act that I ever put together. So the way that became the thing that I was known for was, so as I said earlier, I was doing these online competitions, and I did a couple of lower level ones, and I did one that was like an actual legitimate pageant that happened to be online. And there was, you know, presentation, which is just like, there's the theme, you dress for the theme, you introduce yourself, and then there was, you know, evening gown, question and answer, there was a lip sync category, and then there was a talent category, which, like, talent implies that it's not just you lip syncing. So it's like, I don't know, like, I'm not really a performer. Like, at this point, I had never been on stage before, so it's like, I don't know what my talents are. And then one of my good friends was like, why don't you do a fashion show? So my talent video ended up being, it's a lip sync, but it's, so the song is Grace Kelly by Mika, and in the song...
I remember that song.
So in the song,
been a while.
He mentions all these different colors. So I had... It starts out in a black and white outfit, and then there's, you know, brown, red, blue, purple... forget. I think it was like 9 different looks, and then it ends with a rainbow look. So, like, the video is just cut to all these different colors throughout the video, and it's, like, all edited together, so it's, like, it's a lip-sync video, but it's also a showcase of all my different costuming. So then that became my thing. First it came out of insecurity of, I don't think I'm a good performer, so I'm gonna put as many reveals and tricks into 3 minutes as I can to distract people from the fact that, like, I can't dance and I don't know what I'm doing. But then it also became this thing of, you know, I'm a costumer, so I'm gonna fit as many looks as I can into this 3 minutes to show off what I can do as an advertisement for myself.
But I feel
Perfect.
like that is also a performance to
Yeah.
be able to transform on stage while performing.
Well, it's funny because I viewed it as a crutch for a very long time. But then I was talking to a friend of mine who, you know, just wears a little skimpy bodysuit, but then is, like, doing backflips and flying across the room. Like, she works as a gymnastics teacher during the day, so, like, that's her thing. She's, like, doing backflips across the bar. And then I said something to her, like, I could, like, never do what you do. I can barely, like, twirl around in a circle. And then she was like, yeah, but I could never do what you do. Like, I don't know how you come up with that.
Exactly.
Then, yeah. So then that's what made me realize, like, oh, this isn't just me, like, making excuses for not being a good performer. Like, I should lean into this and embrace it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such an incredible talent. So, yeah.
So the Pokemon one came from, I was making a transformation outfit for one of my clients where she does Cell Block Tango from Chicago. And plays,
oh my gosh.
So she plays all the characters, and then each time it switches characters, she has a wig change and a costume change. So her name is Pataya Hart. She did this number for Miss Continental, which is one of the top drag pageants in the country, and she made, I think, top 3 or top 5, but she won Best Performance for the night with that act. It's really good. So I was making this outfit for her, and it's a dress that flips down into another dress, and then that tears away, and then there's a bodysuit underneath. And then, so it's like, oh, this is a fun concept. Like, this would work really well for a Pokemon evolution with the 3 steps.
Yeah, perfectly.
And so then I was, like, trying to think what I could do with that. And then one of my friends who does shows in Albany was like, by the way, we're having this Pokemon themed show. You should come. And originally it was just like, oh, you should come hang out. But then they were like, message the host and, like, see if you can get a ride up there, blah, blah, blah. So I messaged her. It's like, hi, I heard you're picking up performers from New York City. Like, do you have extra room, like, to come? She goes, are you asking to perform? So I go to my friend. At this point, I'd never performed before. So I go to my friend and I was like, what do I say? And she's like, say yes! Do that thing you were telling me about! So then I just, like, make this outfit, go do this show. My name is, like, at the top of the flyer.
Nice.
Whoa. Oh my gosh.
Which, like, I just have to, like, pretend I know what I'm doing. And then, like, months later, I was like, by the way, like, thank you for giving me my first performance. And she had no idea.
That's awesome.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
fake it till you make it, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any other queens who really love utilizing your transformation outfits?
Not so much. Monet really likes her tearaways, but that's basically just, like, you know, this big caftan or, like, a skirt thing, and it just, like, tears away into a bodysuit.
Right.
That's her thing.
I've heard she loves bodysuits.
Yes.
Not to deflect from tearaways, or from what you're costume designing, but have you ever, like, been on Instagram and saw Designer Daddy?
Yes.
And seen yes, I love all of his transformation dresses. And I'm
Mhm.
just like, I want to be a child again, or I just want all of this in adult size.
Yeah.
Please make this an adult size.
I think he does make them an adult size, but, you know,
Mm.
I think his wait list is probably
Yeah, the wait list. I'm like, when I
Extremely
get
long.
married, I know where I'm going to when I get married if I want to look like a legit princess.
Yes.
I was just thinking about All Stars 2 and their 2-in-1 outfits. And honestly, none of them did such a good job except for Fifi O'Hara.
Yes.
Who,
God,
but to
Fifi
be-
is so
she
good. I love her Instagram.
She comes from a cosplay-ish background.
Yes.
Like, and
Woo!
yeah, and it transforms so completely, and it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
On her Instagram, she did I think a year's worth of
Yes.
cosplay makeup of the characters.
Mhm.
It was
Of drag, but that included cosplay. Yeah.
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 I mean, she did the All Real Monsters, and I was like, holy shit!
Oh my gosh.
Like,
I haven't thought about that in
her
years.
Bowser is my favorite thing. Are there any other queens that you work with? Are there any queens that you work with that you don't make outfits for that you love and want to shout out? I know one off the top of my head that your best friend.
Yeah, so my drag sister, her name is Violet Tendency. She's
Nice.
she's also an AFAB queen, and she runs, which is the show that I'm doing next week. It's called Not Gay as in Happy, but Queer as in Fuck You, and it is a trans POC gender nonconforming AFAB centered drag show that's punk and alternative themed. And it's the only one of its kind in Manhattan. It's a lot of the performers that we get there. It's their first time performing in Manhattan, that they're in their little Brooklyn bubble. So we're bringing something that Manhattan doesn't usually see.
Here we come.
Yes. And then what's especially cute is she tries to bring, per show, one Manhattan performer to give them a chance to do something that's not top 40, that they wouldn't get a chance to do at their regular show. So it goes both ways.
Nice.
That's great.
Yeah.
I just will forever remember the show that you brought me to. That I think Sasha Velour was hosting it at some little bar. The one with the Gandalf performance.
What?
Oh. No, Sasha wasn't there, but this was it was this 5-hour long show. There was a show. It was so
good. All 5 hours were the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Her name is Vivian V. She had the show called Bordello. The show had been going on for several years, and this was the finale, so they basically brought back everyone who had ever performed at that show. Every act was the most ridiculous, over-the-top thing I've ever seen.
So good.
It's still one of the best shows I've ever been to.
Who's that performer that I love?
Leave Alone?
Yes.
Yes.
I think that was the best act I've ever seen.
Yeah. So he does Gandalf the Grey to Gandalf the White as a metaphor for being a trans person.
Nice. Okay, so we're gonna take a quick break for an ad, and then we'll be right back. Hey Arkita, let's talk about Little Petal.
Yeah, definitely. I love those dresses.
Yeah, I love that you can get a dress based on any character in pretty much any fandom.
Yeah, and you know what's so great is that they're gonna fit perfectly because they're all custom made to your measurements.
Yeah, I hate going to the store and trying on 100 shirts that fit awkwardly in my shoulders or on my waist.
I know.
Yeah, it's so uncomfortable and so frustrating.
It is. And you want to know what's even better?
What?
Is that they have pockets.
Yes.
Actual snack-sized pockets.
Yes. And they're pretty much for any body size. And pricing is never based on size.
And you know what's cool about the dresses is that they are all convertible, so you can mix it up any way you want. And there's over 40 tutorials taught by the customers on the Little Petal website.
They look like completely different dresses depending on how you tie it up, which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited to be strapless.
Of course you are. And impressively, they can hold up the most what's the right word? Gifted chests.
Well endowed
Chests. And And I also love that you can wear the dresses pretty much anywhere. You can wear them to conventions, you can wear them to work, you can wear them to parties.
Yeah, it's like an easy, casual, non-committal cosplay.
Usually they're still recognizable. So
Yeah.
you can have a really cool Iron Man dress because it's red and gold and it has it in the right places. Or a Harley Quinn dress that's red and black and is totally recognizable as a Harley Quinn dress.
Yeah, I'm so excited for my Ravenclaw dress to come because I bought it at Dragon Con and I got a fit right there, got my measurements taken, and it was super fast and easy and the most comfortable experience I've ever had with getting a dress custom made for me.
Nice.
What about you? Do you have any dresses by Little Petal?
Yeah, I have the blue evening gown that Diana wears in the gala scene in Wonder Woman, which is very specific, but I love it, and that dress pretty much looks good on anybody who wears it. So I love wearing that dress because it makes me feel super powerful.
You look powerful in that dress.
Thanks, bro.
So, if you're interested in getting a dress from Little Petal, you can get $25 off your dress with the coupon code FAW on the website littlepetal.net.
Once again, that's the coupon code FAW on the website littlepetal.net. And their Instagram is Little Petal, their Facebook is Little Petal Dresses, and their Twitter is littlepetal_. And we're back.
Just to like keep talking about other queens for a second, but like, so I've been at a drag con and Whitney came with me to set up my booth because then I knew, I mean, you would get to say hi to all your friends like a day in advance and like check out the lay of the land and see what was going on. And like, so Whitney like walked around and introduced me to literally everyone. Like Bob the Drag Queen and Peppermint, and I mean it was wild. The amount of people who you knew was wild to me.
My favorite part of that was I wasn't even supposed to be there and nobody questioned the fact that I was there. They were just like, oh, hi.
Yeah, and like I really loved the experience of vending at DragCon as much as I hated the Jeffree Star aspect of it. Just because like the booths, they're just so incredible. They're like they're like fun houses and them like sitting in like a bathtub and like it just, the whole thing, their whole booth is like its own like individual theme, and it's very different than a comic book convention, which is what I'm used to. I've just never seen anything like it before. Can you talk about those just a little bit, just for any drag con fans?
I think the first drag con, which was like very low budget, they didn't really know what they were doing. It was like not very well planned. It was just the queens sitting at folding tables. You could go talk to them and get a picture and get an autograph, whatever. And then they realized like it's not really fair to like ask the fans to like put forward all this money and wait online for hours just to like get a picture with someone sitting behind a table. So they wanted it to be this experience that people would be excited to be a part of. And, you know, they have their good lighting, they have their backgrounds. It's like very much an extension of their drag, an immersive experience that like you get your cute Instagram moment, you get to like feel something that doesn't exist anywhere else. One of the best booths that I've seen was Acid Betty. It was this little like
oh my god,
funhouse maze thing.
Yes, that's what I was talking about. It's so good.
I haven't seen it, but I can imagine that hers would be amazing.
So also, I thought it was funny that you introduced me to her, and I'm like, she's so sweet, and you're like, everyone does not like her.
I love her.
And you like her, and I was like, well, I like her. She's really nice.
Yeah. She's a lot, but I like her. And it actually reminded me, so like a couple weeks after that was probably the most ridiculous transformation outfit I've ever made. She asked me she was doing this tour called Work the World, where each queen had a country assigned to them that they did a little themed runway thing before or after the show. So she was assigned to Canada. And her concept for this, because like Canada's not really known for its fashion, was like, you know, green card wife, like, running away to Canada to escape Trump. So she said, I want a Canadian Mountie uniform that transforms into a McQueen-style giant poofy wedding dress.
I fucking love it.
I don't know if that's possible, but we're gonna try. And somehow I made it work.
That's
and
awesome.
It's probably the most ridiculously complicated thing I've ever made.
Yeah, because when you think about the uniform they wear, how are you hiding it in this?
It was very bulky, and then there's
Okay.
like
I love that
a
performance,
big
though. I love that video.
belt that like strapped across to hold everything in.
I'm a big Whitney fangirl, so...
Yes. Yeah. But her booth at DragCon is like so first you go through this little shop that she hired several of the local Brooklyn queens, and they all had like, their little crafty things that they had made. So she was bringing other people from the community and using her platform to help them out. So you go through that, and then you go into this like jungle section. It's like dark, there's like black lights, there's leaves. She has mannequins with looks that she's worn before that you can just like look up and see all the details on them. There's a little video screen in the corner that's like a, what's it called, time lapse of her doing her makeup in different looks and just like slideshows and stuff. So like you go through this whole thing and it gives you something to look at while you're waiting online.
And someone pops out from behind a...
No.
Oh, so it's like Hogwarts
yes.
at Universal. Like, so
exactly.
It's like while you're waiting for the ride, like you can look at the whole castle.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, she was the only one I think that did that. But then you enter her room, and then all of a sudden there's like rainbows and candy, and it's like super bright and happy.
Oh my god. I need to go to DragCon so badly.
We'll go! Let's
Yeah.
go this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice because now it's in New York as well.
Not next year, this year. Sorry, what?
Now it's in New York as well as LA, so that's
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Oh, were you talking about the one in LA or
no? I was talking about the New York one, but
okay.
It used to only be in LA.
Yeah.
So the LA one's in the spring, and then the New York one's in the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and also
it's
like I
in
loved
September.
I loved walking around with you because I got to see like all the outfits you had at the different queens booths. So that was cute. Seeing you excited about that.
I wanted to also go back to the other thing you were known for, which is your drag as a black and white clown. What is your inspiration for that, and like why that specific kind of look?
Also, real fast, I want to say that we put in our Instagram story to please ask Whitney any questions, and that was like the main question that everyone wants to know. Why
do
black
you
and
more
white
than
down? Why
more than one person
Pura?
asked that? I don't know. Black and white has been my thing since like 8th grade.
Yeah, it's like your daily attire.
Yeah, like it's more than half of my wardrobe. Yeah, so I don't know. That's always been my thing. I really like graphic prints, bold colors, bold lines. I've also really been into clowns and circus stuff since I was a kid. Like, apparently the wallpaper that I picked out in my bedroom when I was 3 years old was circus themed. In like 1st grade, we had to do a thing where we traced ourselves on styrofoam and then decorated it, and I made mine a clown. Like, I can't explain where that came from. It's just always been something that I've been interested in.
Something happened when you were young.
Like, when I was little, we used to bootleg record all the Cirque du Soleil shows off of TV, and I was just like watch.
Oh my
those
gosh,
over
yes,
and over.
I love Cirque du Soleil. That's what I thought I wanted to do when I was
Yeah.
younger. And I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not.
I tried applying for their costume department several times, but I never heard back. But
that's what.
Well, now you
have
just send him pictures of like Sasha and Peppermint and Monet, and just be like, "Bam, you messed up."
Well,
that was the smarter thing to do. I tried to become a contortionist and realized that was not the way. That's not the path I want.
My best friend's partner is a contortionist, and like you have to have a lot of control over what you are eating and how much you are working out, and just like every aspect of your life is your job.
But yeah, the reason why I made it my drag character, so there's 2 reasons. One is just clowns in general, I feel like, relate to the concept of drag very, like, a drag queen is a clown. You know, they have exaggerated features.
Yeah.
And they're performing for entertainment to,
right,
you know, make people feel things. Like, they're a clown. And, like, I also, like, have this very exaggerated style of makeup where, like, my lips are always clown lips, I have huge eyes, and, like, instead of eyebrows, I make little triangles.
Right.
So there's that, and then there's also specifically the Puro clown, which, first of all, like, is black and white, which is my thing anyway. And then it's also, like, I really like the archetype of the Puro, where it started out as this, like, fool character, but then it got adapted over time through, like, the disenfranchised artists of the world kind of used the Puro as their symbol for, like, feeling misunderstood and disenfranchised by their community, but then still being hopeful and having aspirations of making things better. That the character, the archetype, is known for, you know, in love with this girl who's in love with someone else, but then he keeps pining after her, so it's, like, melancholy, but also hopeful.
Sad clown.
Yeah, it's where the modern day mime comes from.
Right.
And then I found this quote yesterday as I was trying to figure out a concise way to explain all of this, that I feel like this just perfectly embodies.
I thought this was a quote about you when you posted this.
No. But it might as well be. So it says, Puro, the sad clown, with white face and loose white blouse, expressing slowly and subtly the absence of and beyond words, emerged in the 19th century from his roots in stock comedies and pantomimes to become the embodiment of a certain artistic type, a specific strain of artistic emotion, sensitive, melancholy, and solitary, and at once playful and daring in subverting language and suggesting the fraught but still facile and fluctuating nature of gender. And I feel like that basically describes drag as a whole. You know? Like, lip syncing basically is miming.
Yeah.
Right.
If you think
it
about
is.
it.
It is.
So you're using lack of speech or the distortion of speech to convey a message. And then I was trying to find, I haven't yet, what they meant by Puro representing the bending of gender, but I will take it. I mean,
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Yeah. It is a very androgynous character. Like, even when they're depicted as male, it is a very feminine presentation and very emotional and delicate, and it's like a big baggy outfit that doesn't really show the body at all.
Right.
Which is also something that I relate to as someone who's, like, not cisgender.
Right.
Most of my clothing kind of, like, obscures my figure because I want it to be less obvious what's underneath.
Shape-shifting lizard.
Exactly. It's funny because there's several other, which I call, like, my long-lost siblings, clown and specifically Puro-inspired drag performers throughout the country. So we get mistaken for each other.
So cute.
Interesting.
So there's this other AFAB non-binary drag performer in Chicago who does a whiteface Puro character with, like, similar hair, similar aesthetic, but, like, we don't actually look the same, but a lot of people thought that I was them.
Wow.
So their name is Lucky Stiff. They're really cool. You should look them up. But then when we finally met each other, we were doing this festival, Bushwig, back in September, which is...
I've heard of that.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was my first time doing it. So it's this big celebration of Brooklyn drag, and it's, like, 2 days long with probably, like, 100 performers, and mostly it's the Brooklyn scene. It started out as very just, like, Brooklyn, but now people come in from other places. So they were there from Chicago, and they just happened to schedule us out of 100 people, like, right back to back.
Wow.
And both of us at the same time were like, we need to get a picture together so people stop saying we're the same person.
I'm just imagining that, you know, that Spider-Man meme of the two Spider-Mans, like, pointing at each other?
Yep, it's very that.
Oh my god.
I know no one could see us motioning that, but you know it's that.
That's amazing.
So, Whitney.
Yes.
How long have you been in drag now, or been in this community?
So I just saw on Facebook a couple of days ago was the 5-year anniversary of the first time that I went out to a club in drag. I've been performing for a little over, I guess, like 2.5 years. And then I was doing drag, like, in my bedroom on the internet for like 1.5 years before I started going out. But then this becomes a complicated question. Because
haven't you been doing drag your whole life?
Exactly. Like, I can pull up photos as early as 2008, 2009, which at the time was just me going, I'm gonna do a little dress-up photo shoot to, like, work out my feelings. But then, I look back on it, and I'm like, this was drag. I just didn't know what to call it at the time.
Well, what advice would you have for anybody who wants to start doing drag or, like, get into the drag community, since you've kind of been doing it for so long, and it's kind of been your way of expressing yourself? Like, what advice would you give someone to get started on this?
Practice, practice, practice. Just, like, sit at home, play with makeup, figure out what shapes work on your face, figure out your look. Start out just, like, styling whatever you have around or whatever, but, like, you know, build up a wardrobe, build up a character, you play around with things, see what you like, and then just figure out where the drag scene is in your area, and then just go in drag, introduce yourself to people. It's a very close-knit community, so most of the way to get into things is just through networking. Put yourself out there, support other people's shows, tell them what you're up to. A lot of cities have open stages, which are specifically for newer performers who aren't necessarily ready to be booked for an official show yet, where it's just, you can show up, do a number, whatever you want, get the practice, and then just keep plugging at it.
So basically just show up.
Yeah. Put yourself out there, practice, figure out what you want to do, and put it out into the world.
That's awesome. So this has been extraordinarily fun. Just, like, fangirling out about Queens and just your life, your drag life. But because you are a designer and you essentially own your own small business at this point, I did want to talk about burnout, which we mentioned earlier. Just because, like, you and I on our personal social medias have been very vocal about just, like, working for, like, 3 days, like, straight through, or, like, just, like, having to put up messages, or just being like, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be mean, just please don't message me at all for a week, because if you do, I will snap at you. Like, this is just, like, and I'm sorry, I don't want to, it's just that I am sleep deprived, and so I wanted you to talk about, like, what burnout is for you, and also, like, I know that you've been working a lot on getting better about saying no to requests for commissions when you just know that you aren't going to have the time to do it, and just, like, put your mental health first a little bit. So can you talk about that?
So here's how my past year has gone. January is the Glam Awards, which is the New York City Nightlife Awards. Everyone needs outfits for that. Then that was when we left for tour. I was gone for a week. When I got back, everyone wanted to talk to me. So then that hit. I had to catch up with everyone who I hadn't been talking to for a week. Then we went into pageant season. There was, like, 6 or 8 different local pageants that everyone needed costumes for. So I go through that. And then we go straight into DragCon LA. Everyone needs stuff for that. And then right after that was when season 11 got cast. So then I was working on that. And then that went straight into Pride. And then that went straight into making stuff for All Stars 4. And then that went straight into starting to work on stuff for DragCon. And then there was also, so the first weekend of September was Wigstock. The second weekend of September was Bushwig. DragCon was the end of September, and then it goes straight into Halloween. And then from Halloween, it goes straight into holiday. You have, your Christmas, your whatever. Christmas shows start before Thanksgiving. So, not really any break. And then it goes straight from there into Christmas, into New Year's, and then we're back to Glam Awards. So I have not had a true break in a year.
You slept for about 10 hours last year.
Yeah. And they keep adding new events that, like, everyone needs outfits for at one time. And it's like throttling, like, over and over, just like, everyone needs stuff. I have, like, one day where I don't leave my bed, and then I have to start back over again. And then it just became this thing where, like, when I finally have a moment to breathe, like, I don't want to spend that time, washing the dishes or doing laundry or reorganizing my workroom. So, like, I'm just living in this, like, pile of garbage. And it just, like, makes my mental state worse. And then I just, like, don't want to do anything because I don't want to be in the workroom because the workroom looks horrible. And then I can't find anything because, like, everything's buried under, like, layers of 8 different projects. And it's...
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
It feels like, you're struggling to keep your head above water. That, like, all I want to do is, like, if I had a week off, I could reset, everything would be fine, but nobody's giving me that chance. Yeah. Which, like, I can't complain. Like, I've gotten so many good opportunities, and it's been a good year, but also, like, I would love some sleep.
Yeah, and I mean, like, just based on what you've said throughout the podcast, like, it sounds like a lot of queens contact you pretty late in the game.
Yes.
To make outfits for their shows, and, like, you want to be able to make outfits for them.
Mm-hmm.
So then that means that you have to stay up all night making those outfits.
The problem is it's just the nature of the industry. Like,
yes.
It's kind of unavoidable that a lot of these things get booked less than a week in advance. Mm-hmm. And then it's, oh God, I need an outfit for this specific theme. I don't have one, please help. Yeah. And just, there's no way around it.
Yeah.
But
I know that you've allowed...
is
sorry.
that we're all dealing with the same thing. So people in the community are a little more understanding than they would be otherwise. Because, like, they're also just like, I'm sorry, like, I also have 3 days to get together my hair and my shoes and my jewelry and my mix and everything else for this. Like, I understand that it's not enough time, but, like, it is what it is.
Yeah, and you've posted a lot of, like, really great things on your page about, like, respecting designers and, and like the importance of, like, tagging your designer on your social media and everything like that. And I know that within the past year you've allowed yourself to occasionally hire people to help you when you have a project that is, like, an extreme deadline.
Yes.
So that's good.
Big problem. So I had a bunch of people working with me. DragCon New York was, like, the most insane month I've ever had. I had 23 things due in 30 days.
Wow.
Half of which were just due the same week. And then it was after my schedule was already beyond full. Then all of a sudden Sasha pops up being like, hi, can you make my outfit that's, like, the only thing I'll be wearing during DragCon, and also can you, like, costume 3 of the performers for nightgowns? And then Peppermint pops up, goes, hi, I need an outfit for all 3 days, it's really important. And just, like, everyone who, like, I didn't want to say no to came in after I had already said my schedule's full, don't contact me. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, you post about it, people just ignore it. And I mean, so, like, honestly, it sounds like you're just going to keep getting more and more work. It doesn't sound like there's going to be breaks. So have you seriously considered, like, either getting an intern or full-time hiring someone, that way you don't have to turn anyone down?
I'm working on it. Right now, the stuff that I'm working on, which I think is also going to be good for my mental health, is getting a separate studio space.
Yes,
because
definitely.
I can show you guys. You won't be able to see it on the podcast, but this is my workroom. It's a big pile of bags of fabric that it just takes up this whole corner of the living room, but there's not really any space for actual storage. So it just never looks good. There's no way to organize it properly. I have these boxes of shelving units that have been in the hallway for over a year that I just like want to set up but don't have anywhere to put them.
Or time.
And then exactly. And I just hate looking at this mountain of stuff every day, and like I don't want to hang out in the living room because it's just full of work stuff, and then I feel like I should be working. So I think it's going to be really good to have somewhere else to put all of that I can properly organize it, that it can be there, I can separate my work life and my personal life a little bit, and hopefully that'll help set better boundaries. And then also, if I want to hire someone to work, I don't have them existing in my home.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say that as a designer as well, and I do work from my apartment, and my apartment is a studio, so it's all just one room. It's living room, bedroom, sewing room.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a very long time to finally organize that part. And for me, like, the biggest thing is like conventions and doing all my cosplays, and once that's done and I want to continue working on like my own sewing projects for like my own company, and I see what it looks like, I'm like, I don't even want to go over there. It makes me so upset, and I know I should be working, and then it's like it's taking that moment to actually do it, and it's like it doesn't. And when I do it, I don't even do all of it at once. Like, there's still a lot to be done, but I'll start with one box and figure that out.
Yeah,
and
I mean, you should just do it one at a time. But it's also like, it's continuous. Like, it's like you're gonna...
Yeah.
The more you design, the more there's going to be there. It's not like once you finish it, all of a sudden, that area is going to permanently be organized.
Nope. Yeah, no, it's never going to be permanently organized, but it does help to start with one thing, and then even just doing that one thing and saying, okay, I've done this.
But that is something an intern could do for you.
That too, yeah.
Or when I say an intern, I mean a hired intern, because you should pay your interns. But like that is something that like you should not be focusing your mental energy on. Like, that's something someone else should be doing for you, because if you're turning down clients and having to do 30 dresses or outfits or whatever in like within less than a month, like it's you might be reaching the point,
even know how that's
the growing pains point of like needing
luckily
to do that.
Some of my projects take 3 hours. So like there are days when, like, I wake up at 8 a.m. and then I deliver things at, like, noon, 4 p.m., and 9 p.m. and just, like, churning out things and then just, like, crash. So when I had several people working here during DragCon, a lot of it was just cutting and then sitting around while I sewed it and then sending them off to go deliver it so that I could keep working on other things.
Yep.
That's like a proper assembly line then.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could also be answering your emails and stuff.
Yeah. My other big problem is kind of like a control freak thing.
Yes.
I was going to say, it's pretty hard to give up control.
That's why I have a very hard time ever hiring anyone.
Yeah.
I only ever had someone work for me for like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
But at least, like, I know you have different designs and you are making new designs, but you're mostly following kind of the same template, right?
Yes, but the problem with mine is that no one can cut jersey.
Right.
So, like, the girl I had working for me for 3 weeks, I ended up having to recut out every single thing she did because no one can cut jersey. They don't understand how the fabric works. And even less people can sew it.
Yeah. Because for me, my problem is almost everything I make is a one-off custom piece that I haven't made before. So everything has to be figured out as it comes, and it's hard to find someone who I trust to just be like, here's what's in my head, make it happen, like dig in my big box of patterns, figure out which one would work best, and make a new pattern. So by the time I would explain to someone exactly what's in my head, how I think the best way to do it, and how, like, what to do, I feel like I would rather just do it myself. So when I do have help, it's usually like, okay, I'm making bodysuits for 4 backup dancers. Each bodysuit has 12 pieces. I don't want to cut these out myself, so I'll have someone just sit here and cut for 4 hours or, you know, figure out the layout of, like, it was like a sports jersey style thing with lettering. So it's like, okay, like, here's how big I want it to be, just, like, map it out, figure it out, cut out the pieces. But, like, when it comes to the actual design and assembly work, it makes me nervous to delegate that to anyone else.
Well,
that's where I have the problem.
Well, that comes with, like, having the person work for you for a while. Like, when I had someone working for me, all I had her doing was cutting.
Mm-hmm.
All I had her doing was cutting, and like I said, she didn't do a great job at it, but she also was, like, you know, brand new to it, like a college, like, kid. A college woman. You know what I mean? I should say kid. She's probably like 19 or 20. And just like, I would, like, it's not like I was about to be like, okay, like, I'm gonna have her sew these things, and I had to do the math for everything for her. So basically, like, I had to, like, work out every single thing before she came in, and then I was like, okay, like, follow this exact, like, these, like, coordinates on the fabric, basically. Because, like you, everything is custom. Yeah, I do think it's very hard for custom designers to give up any control.
I also have a good story going back to the previous topic. There's this other Brooklyn nightlife designer, Diego Montoya, who he makes a lot of Sasha Velour's things, like all of her beautiful sequin things with the big headpieces. So the DragCon look we collaborated on. He made the bodysuit, the blue alien bodysuit that went underneath, and I made the dress that went over top. So we're at this fitting together, and we're sitting and talking, and he asked me if I had a studio, and I said no, and he was like, you really need to get one. And he told me that, because he blew up really fast. Like, he was just kind of doing his thing in Brooklyn, no one knew who he was, and then Sasha kind of recruited him as her signature designer, and then people saw what he was doing for her, and all of a sudden everybody wanted to work with him. And he told me, I didn't realize I needed a studio until my friend had to yell at me that it was unreasonable that I got rid of my bed and was sleeping on the couch to make room for more stuff.
Yeah. No, it's
So-
it's real. It's like a real
So it's like,
thing.
okay, I think I should get on top of this.
Yeah, like I have my studio space is in my house, but it is its own. Yeah, it's its own sanctioned area. It's the biggest room in our house. I am no longer allowed to work in my bedroom or in the living room. That is the area in which I work in.
And I feel like having that separation really helps with you mentally. And I think
Yes, it does.
Someone told me about this years ago when I was younger. It's like, if you do work in your bedroom, then you're not going to be able to sleep because you're only going to be able to think about work. And that's why when I design, I don't design in my bed. Like, if I want to draw stuff, I'm getting out of my bed as soon as possible, and I'm going to sit at like my design table or sit on the couch or someplace else.
Yeah, I think I talked about this with Jenny, that, like, you shouldn't even, like, eat in your bed. I think we talked about that at one of our photo shoots.
No, I don't think so. Who the fuck eats in their bed?
Well, I used to eat in my bed because in Brooklyn I didn't have any space for a kitchen table, so I just ate every meal in my bed, which is actually really funny because now I have a kitchen table, and Nort, my dog, it took him a long time to adjust to it. Because he's like, why can't I be sitting next to you while you're eating? This is next level terrible. But yeah,
I would rather eat on the floor than on the bed.
Okay, it wasn't Jenny then. Sorry.
I guess I don't really eat on my bed.
In my life.
Eat ice cream.
Yeah, but
it's different.
Yeah, but your bed should not be for watching TV. It shouldn't be for eating. It shouldn't be for working. It should only be for boinking and sleeping.
Yep.
I was wondering how you were going to phrase that.
We actually talked about that in my high school psychology class, and she was like, your bed is for sleeping and for sleeping.
Yeah, like I'm 32, and it took me until I moved to Texas to start doing that. It's like, that is it. No, none of this other stuff in the bed, because then it ruins your sleep.
It does. It does. It really does.
Like, my God, I used to Like, I used to stay up working to the point where my teeth would hurt so much that I felt like they were falling out of my mouth. And I didn't realize it's because I was, like, grinding them while working because of sleep deprivation.
Huh.
So I'd be, like, sitting in... I mean, well, I used to stay up for, like, literally 5 days straight working.
Yep, that's bad.
Yep.
I don't know how that's
in case you don't know that.
possible.
Yeah, I think the longest I've gone is like 2.5 days.
But yeah, like my teeth would feel so sore that I thought they were like fall out of my mouth because I was like clenching them. And I'm like, why does my mouth hurt so much? I'm like, oh, because this is ridiculous and I need to go to sleep.
Yep.
Yeah, no, that happens to me a lot where it's more just like, why do I feel so awful? Am I dying? Am I sick? No, it's because I haven't eaten today yet. Like, I should go fix that.
Yeah, because once you start working on a project, I mean, I think all business owners can relate to this. Yeah. And even not business owners, like, once you start working on a project, you just, like, don't want to stop until you feel like you hit that point where you deserve to go eat, or, like, deserve to go to sleep, or, like, but that's, like, not true. Like you're a human, and that's just, like, part of life. You need to eat. Like, you need to sleep.
It's half that, and half, like, I need to get this done. I only have this amount of time.
Oh, yeah, I know.
If I eat, if I sleep, I'm not going to finish it, so I'll just do that later. Like, not realizing that if I lay down for an hour, things would go a lot faster, because I'm just like...
I think one of the hard parts is being a designer, or getting started on a project, is setting that time aside for yourself in the middle of this to actually take care of yourself, because you can continue to keep doing all these designs and doing all these projects one after the next, but like eventually you're gonna burn yourself out to a point where it's like you can't, just the thought of even having to do something else. It's like you're in a spiraling depression.
I've burnt myself out and got through such bad depression where I just like wasn't able to work for like over a month straight. And it's just like, and in your head, you're doing so much work, thinking about the work that you need to do, that I was essentially doing a full day's work just thinking about working. So much of my mental energy was going towards it that I wasn't able to put any physical energy towards it.
Yeah. I fall into this rut where like certain projects give me depression, just like for whatever reason. Like anytime I try to start working on them, it just like makes me miserable, and like I just end up not being able to function, and then I just like lie in bed and I'm like, I need to do this project, but then I get anxious thinking about all the other things that I feel like I can't do until I finish that other thing, and then I just like am not sleeping, I'm not being productive at all. It's like, ugh. So then it finally comes down to like doing that project that was causing this roadblock, like the day that it's due, just to like get it out of the way, and then all of a sudden, the floodgates open. But then at that point, I'm too exhausted to do anything.
There are certain dresses of mine that I get that way about. When someone orders them, I'm like, all right, I gotta do this one right now, because otherwise I know I'm going to fall into that rut, and then I don't do it, and then I end up falling into that rut, and I'm like, God damn it, just make this dress. And then I feel bad, because it's like not the client's fault. No.
It's just like certain things. It's just like, I don't like the material. I don't like whatever it is. Like, it's just...
No, that's how I feel when people ask me to make things out of spandex. And I'm like, I look at that, I'm like, wovens. Wovens is what I do.
I do
I'm the opposite.
Me and Whitney do. Whitney is all spandex all the time.
Your dresses are so amazing, and I'm just like, I would wear this, I love this, but I'm like, I could never picture myself being able to do this.
It's a very different monster.
Yeah. I love wovens too. I love everything that comes with that monster. And it's so frustrating working in the fashion industry now, because so many people are moving away from that and not wanting to do that. I'm a corporate designer, and everything is knits, even in ready to wear. Just all of it. It's just all knits, and I'm just like, give me some woven dresses, please. One cotton dress.
Honestly, it's because I think the fit is easier. It's just like it's
the fit. Yeah, it's like, a lot of it's the fit.
You don't have to. Yeah, like I mean, so like wovens are easier to sew.
They are.
Definitely.
So they are.
Sounds like Whitney disagrees.
Well, that's because you only work in spin.
Well,
Not
I
only,
went to
that's not
school
true,
for
that's not
evening wear.
I know, I was like, that's not true.
I was
okay,
working.
but okay,
Yeah.
fine. Silk. So it's funny because the only two fabrics that I ever really work with are either jersey or silk. So it's like the two hardest fabrics you can possibly cut and sew.
Yeah, it's funny, when I was in school and we were mostly working with like silk and chiffon and organza and all this stuff, everyone in my classes was very scared of stretch fabrics and like thought they were hard and didn't want to work with them, and I loved working with it. And like since I've graduated, most of what I've done has been spandex.
Yeah.
And then now all these baby drag queens who are teaching themselves how to sew for their Drag Race audition tapes like only work in stretch because to them that's easier, and like doing something with darts that like actually has to fit is really scary.
I love darts. So a funny story to bring it all back to cosplay. I love darts. When I'm sure you've seen it, the Amazon cosplay I did years ago with all the girls. I was helping Robin make hers with Debbie. And they're like, yeah, it's just so loose right here. Because we were working with, like, faux leather.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, you just dart it. And they looked at me like, what? I was like, a dart?
Yeah.
And the look of, I don't know what you're talking about, on their face gave me so much joy because I sat them down. And we all gathered around the little classroom of Robin's studio. And I was like, so you take your apex line, and then you draw where you want the dart to start, and then you take an inch away from that because you don't want a pointy boob, and then you sew them together. And it was like a funny joke for like a week. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna put a dart in it because I know what that is.
I really hope that they listen to this and it makes them smile.
So I saw this meme the other day that it was meant for cosplayers, and it was like an alignment chart of sewing. And the three options going down, it was like retail pattern, duct tape pattern, or no pattern. And then my friends and I are talking about it, and they're like, where's the option for making your own real paper patterns, and what is duct tape patterning?
I still don't understand duct tape patterning. I know so many people that do it. I know people that do it. I haven't met somebody that actually does it.
No.
Because I
what
feel
the
like
fuck is duct tape patterning?
You went to Dragon Con, Jenny.
I really love when Jenny curses. Because she's the cutest human on earth.
Can't stop them. Duct tape patterning is, so you wear a giant t-shirt so that way you don't duct tape yourself. Or like you wrap yourself in saran wrap or whatever. And then if you're making a top, so you wear a big t-shirt and then you duct tape yourself in the top. So when you cut it off, it's the shape of you. And then you kind of draw the pattern of how you want it done. On your body. And then you cut out the pattern pieces. It's kind of like draping.
Yeah.
But
I don't know about
sure.
I guess it's kind of like draping.
It's kind of like draping. It's like somewhere between draping and pattern making.
Yeah.
It's like 3D pattern making.
Yeah, I get it now.
You know,
but I think it's for people who don't have a dress room, because I do have two, and I know what I'm doing, and I know how to do that. But for someone who'd never learned how to like mark a pattern or like work with styling tape, I think that's a very easy and plausible way to make a costume.
But like I'd never even heard of it, because like I went to school where it's like, if you're not precisely everything to the 16th of an inch, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Which is why I love drag costumes, because they don't care as long as it looks good from the outside. So that's why I can create something in 3 hours that like looks good.
That's amazing. I love that.
And then the other
I love that
thing
because
is...
I'm like, whenever I work in like a better fabric, especially, I'm like, the inside has to look as beautiful as the outside.
Yeah.
The inner beauty, as we call it.
The other nice thing about drag queens is they come with their own understructure, so you don't have to like build a corset into it or anything.
Yeah.
So
oh my God.
that makes things
that
a lot
so
easier.
Nice.
Yeah.
I made a corset last year. I made a bunny suit last year with boning in it, and it was... I forgot what that feeling felt like. Of wearing boning and being cinched all the way in for an entire day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely used to wear corsets, and I don't care about that anymore. Tank tops and shorts or my dresses. I need comfort, and that's it. Oh, or Whitney's onesies. I wear Whitney's onesies, and I wear Booty and the Geeks onesies.
I want one of your onesies. I love onesies.
Whitney made me. Whitney made me the best onesie in the world, which is skeletons on surfboards and
Yes.
what are they? Hot air balloons or?
They're just rainbow balloons.
Rainbow balloons.
Yeah.
I own
It's
it. I don't know
amazing.
why I don't know what it is, but I love it.
No, Danielle.
Every time I wear it, everyone is like, "What the fuck is that?" And I'm like,
Well,
"It is
I
the
think-
best thing you will see all night. That is what it is."
I think
You know,
what you
I love
originally
those.
told me was just pick the two most ridiculous fabrics you can find and make me something.
Yeah, because like
It was
when when Whitney and I would go to these shows, like I would always be like head walking or like swinging from like pipes on venues and stuff like that. So like I need something real weird.
Okay. All right.
So is there anything that you like when you're going through like burnout or anxiety or anything, is there anything that like helps you to get through it, or like any phrases that you repeat to yourself?
So there's two things that I do. I have this little ritual that I do that like I posted it on my Facebook like as if it was like, you know, a meditation ritual or like a spell or something. So I go for a walk. I stop. There's this like homemade gourmet donut shop a couple blocks from where I am. So I go there, I get a donut. It's like, they're really cheap. They're like cheaper than Dunkin' Donuts, and they're homemade and they're really good. So I go there.
You have to tell me this
Yes.
later, 'cause I love donuts.
The place is called Moe's Doughs in Greenpoint. They do ones where they just like crumble up an entire Snickers bar and put it on top.
That
or they have-
reminds me of like Voodoo Donuts.
Yeah, it's similar to that,
Mm-hmm.
but cheaper. So I go there and then like walk through McCarran Park, and then I go and I get myself like a bubble tea or something that's like not super caffeinated, and then I like walk through the park. I go to the waterfront in Williamsburg and just like stare at the skyline and like think about how happy I am that I'm here. And there's like this one pier in Williamsburg that has this sculpture on the end of it, and you can just sit there. And there have been times I've gone there at like 10:30 at night, and there's just a couple other people doing the same thing. We all just sit there, stare at the water, stare at the skyline. Nobody says anything, nobody bothers each other, and then just like walk around till you get tired. If it's during the day, I like to just, there's a bunch of little thrift stores in the area, so I'll go there, like pinpoint the most ridiculous, absurd thing that they're selling, go try it on for fun, take a picture, send it to my friends. If it fits and it looks good, then I'll buy it. If it's like under $20. And then just like walk until I get tired, go home, take a shower, take a nap, and then usually I feel ready to get started again. And then the other thing that I do is just like go out to a show and see my friends, because the drag community that I'm part of here, the Brooklyn scene, it's very like uplifting and supportive and welcoming and like make you feel validated in your best self, whatever that is. It makes you feel very seen and appreciated. And the good thing about what I do is that, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse, but more times than not it ends up being a good thing, is that my social life and my work life overlap a lot. So when I'm working, I also get to see people who I enjoy being around, and then that makes things easier because, you know, working independently at home, it's very easy to feel isolated and feel like, you know, you just are this machine pumping out stuff. Like, you don't get to talk to anyone, you don't get to go to anything. So then every so often, whether it's a concert or it's a drag show or whatever, it's like, okay, maybe I won't get enough sleep tonight, but I'm gonna go do something fun that like makes me happy, and it's going to revitalize me mentally and emotionally, so that way even if like my physical state isn't as good, I'll still feel more prepared to take on things the next day.
That's great. Yeah, so basically just like getting out of your physical space that you were in is what really helps you the most.
Yeah, and doing things that recharge you spiritually.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is great. So, do you have like a website or a number where people in drag or the LGBT community can reach out to get help?
Yeah, so there's this really good organization that's specifically for trans and queer people. It's called the Trans Lifeline. It's translifeline.org. And it's a trans-run organization for trans people who are struggling. So they have a hotline where you can call if you're feeling suicidal or just struggling mentally and emotionally. And then they also accept donations to facilitate, name changes and getting new IDs for trans people who maybe can't afford it on their own or don't know the process for getting it, and it's causing them a lot of struggles. And a lot of the shows that I do here in Brooklyn will raise money for them, so we're constantly giving money back to the community for people who need help, who don't know how to get it themselves.
That's amazing. It sounds like the drag community is very, it's like a big family, kind of.
Yeah, well, I mean, not to quote RuPaul, who's like dividing everything, but RuPaul likes to say, as queer people, we get to choose our families, and it's true, because a lot of these people, like, I'm lucky enough to have a family who supports what I do, and like they're finally coming around to like understand the nuances of it all. For a while they were just calling it like, oh, Whitney's doing performance art, but like now they're understanding it and they're still accepting of it, but like a lot of people don't. So like their chosen family is their family, like that's who they spend holidays with, that's who they call when they have any sort of problem, and like you really need to build those bonds to survive, because those are the only people who understand what you're going through.
It's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on.
Jenny's so happy.
Can you just let us know where we can find you?
Sure. The main place to see all of my work, both my personal drag and designs that I'm making for other people, is on my Instagram, which is Black and White Striped. You can also find me on Facebook. It's Pierretta Victori, PIERRETTA VIKTORI. And then there's a link on my Facebook to my YouTube channel, which like I don't have enough followers yet to get a custom URL, so it's like this whole long garbled thing. Oh. But if all of you guys follow me, maybe I can get a better URL.
And you should, because your videos are great.
Thank you.
All your performances.
And then if you follow me on Instagram and Facebook, there's just a running update of what shows I'm performing at or anything that's going on in my life that you should check out.
Sweet.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds cool. So we'll definitely go and give you a follow then. Mm-hmm. But thanks so much for listening, and if you like what you hear, subscribe, review, and rate us on our social medias,
which are Fandom and Wellness on Instagram,
Fandom and Wellness on Facebook,
and Fandom Wellness on Twitter. So come hang out with us online and
be kind and take no shit.
Yay! Bye!